Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 333 of Martha Runs the World. How are you this week? I am doing really well. It's less than 2 weeks till my 50-mile race. Yes, I am going to finish. Yes, I will finish my first 50-mile race at the Cool Moon 50 in Cool, California. And I will tell you all about it after it happens. But first, this week, I'm talking all about the John Muir Trail. I'm going to talk about that. And then I have three reviews afterwards. And I'll tell you a little bit about my training this weekend. The John Muir Trail passes through what many backpackers and hikers think is the most beautiful mountain scenery in the U.S. I also think it is. The trail goes through 13,000 and 14,000 foot peaks, lots and hundreds, maybe thousands of lakes, and canyons and cliffs made of granite. It has some of the best weather you'll find anywhere, probably more mild weather than you would find in the Rockies. The trail is 211 miles long and runs mostly in conjunction with the Pacific Crest Trail. And you can find my episode all about the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, that I did a few years ago on my website. I will have a link in this episode. If you haven't listened to that, you can go ahead and go back and listen. The trail goes from Yosemite Valley all the way to the foot of Mount Whitney. And actually, Mount Whitney is included as part of the John Muir Trail. And it winds through the Sierra Nevada mountains, and it goes through the John Muir and Ansel Adams Wilderness into Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks, and like I said, Mount Whitney. It's an amazing trail, and it's one that many people like to backpack if they don't have months and months to take off to do the whole PCT. It's a nice distance. And why would I cover the John Muir Trail on a running podcast? Even if you're not a backpacker, maybe you just want to hike, or maybe you just want to go out for a day and do some trail running. It's a perfect trail for that. There are a few trailheads that you can get on the JMT, which I'll call it, that you can go out for a day of trail running or just for a hike. And there are some places you can get on and some of the highways that pass through the Sierras that you can get onto the JMT and go for a nice trail run. There are no races on there because they don't really allow races on the Pacific Crest Trail anymore. They used to at one time. The Angeles Crest in Southern California is partially on the PCT, but that was established many years ago when they allowed it. They do not allow that anymore. It's just a really neat trail, and I like to cover the long trails. I'll do one later in the year on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I'd like to do one on the Colorado Trail, maybe the Arizona Trail, and a few other ones later on the show, because they're just really interesting to talk about how they got started and how they were created and why they are of interest to all of us. And maybe you are interested in backpacking too, so in that way, it might be of interest to you. What is the best time of year to hike the John Muir Trail? Well, the trail is accessible from July through September, sometimes early October, but you have to be careful because of the snow. And it really varies depending on the previous winter snowfall. Sometimes you can get up there in June, but I would be very cautious about that. It really is a matter of how much you want to go through snow and what your risk tolerance is and your skill. So you have to be very careful of it. Some people like to hike with snow on the ground and the raging waters from the creeks. That's another thing. When there's snow melt, those creeks that come down and past the trail are really, really dangerous and the water can be rushing, and not all the creeks have bridges, so you have to cross them, and you don't want to cross a creek that is dangerous. Those waters can be really, really scary, and you can be hurt or be lost. Many people have been lost in those creeks, trust me. And you can also ski on the trail in the middle of winter, but I would say that's not for the uninitiated. Most trail runners or hikers or backpackers aren't going to want to do that. I would say if you're going to go out there for more than a day or something like that, and you want a backpack, I would say the first week of July is the time to start. The first substantial snows usually come sometime in October. As you get farther into summer, there's a risk of wildfires as well. We all know about that in the West Coast. Now, there's another question that you have to ask yourself. Are you going to go on the trail north or south? If you're only going to go out for a day, then that's not really a big deal. There are plenty of places to park your car and to head out. If you want to go out for a day and do 15, 20 miles, park your car in one of the parking lots, go out and do 10 miles and come back. That would be an excellent day. It'd be a really hard day because at those high altitudes, it's really hard. You might want to consider doing less miles, but it'd be a great adventure and come back to the car exhausted and having a great time. You can do that. If you're going to go out if you want to do the whole trail of 211 miles, you have to choose which direction you want to go, north or south. North to south is the more popular option. There are other people doing it. A lot of times it's easier to get transportation to Yosemite Valley. You can take the train up if you want, and then you can start in Yosemite Valley and go that way. It's much easier. Southbound brings you to the highest and most rugged stretches at the end of your hike instead of the beginning. Northbound, you're faced with climbing the summit of Mount Whitney with a heavy pack at the start of your hike. So you really have to figure it out. And yes, you get to if you get the reservations and you win the lottery, because there is a lottery to climb it. If you get that, you get to climb the highest peak in the contiguous U.S. Yes, you do. Now, you have to get a wilderness permit to be able to backpack on the trail. Just out for day, you don't need it. You do need a wilderness permit. Quotas are in place to ensure that your experience isn't hampered by large crowds and that the fragile environment isn't duly damaged. You also need a bear canister, and the plastic bear canister that you need to take that with you. So you need to remember that. That's very important to take with you. And for most of the area, the Pacific Crest Trail and the John Muir Trail are the same trail. They use both of them. It varies. There's for approximately 170 miles of the 211 miles, it's the same trail. So you may see PCT hikers, through hikers on the JMT. So you can talk to them and see what their experience is like and maybe get some tips from them if you're out there backpacking. Who knows? There's a lot of information on the Pacific Crest Trail about hiking on there and about what you need to do if you are interested in backpacking more on it. I think it's a really, really interesting thing to do. I love finding out about backpackers. It's not something that I'm really interested in. Maybe overnight or for 2 nights. Maybe in the future, but right now it's not something that I'm going to be doing. There is a lot of information on that website about food storage, about sanitation and waste disposal, about transportation. They have a really, really cool transportation system set up where they do have buses that you can catch at the Mount Whitney site. You can catch a bus back to Tahoe. You can catch or to Reno if you want. You can. It's really unique how they have it all set up for the backpackers. They have it's all about. They have camping regulations there and all kinds of really, really important information if you are interested in backpacking the John Muir Trail. Now, the history of the trail, the first exploring and mapping of the High Sierra was done in the late 1800s by men like Theodore Solomons, Bolton Brown, and Joseph LeConte. Solomons has been referred to as the father of the John Muir Trail and was quoted as saying, "The idea of a crest parallel trail came to me one day while herding my uncle's cattle in an immense unfenced alfalfa field near Fresno. It was 1884 and I was 14. To understand the history of the trail, look no further than the life of its namesake, John Muir. John Muir was an amazing person, and I should do a whole episode on him. I did read a fantastic book about John Muir, a biography that I just love. So I will talk about John Muir in a future episode and how he and his life shaped every trail in the West, I believe. Everything, especially in California and the Western states, it's really is because of him. So I'll do a whole episode on him. He was a famous 19th century naturalist and conservationist who was instrumental in the development of the national park system. And without him, we wouldn't have national parks. Muir arrived in San Francisco in 1868 at the age of 29. He is reported to have asked directions to any place that is wild, and he set out for Yosemite Valley on foot. He walked from San Francisco to Yosemite, and he carried with him a loaf of bread, tea, a blanket, and a notebook for writing. He made it to Yosemite, and he was so enthralled that he stayed there, and he stayed up, and he spent many, many years of his life in Yosemite. He also would go out hiking and exploring the natural beauty around him, and he founded the Sierra Club in 1892 and lobbied to establish protection of the forests and parks. John of the Woods, as he was fondly referred to sometimes, after his death, the Sierra Club won California legislation appropriating the first $10,000 for the construction of the John Muir Trail in 1915. 23 years later, and many man-hours later, the trail construction was completed in 1938, the year of the 100th anniversary of John Muir's birth. Now, of course, it was named the John Muir Trail because it was because of him that the trail was made. So you don't have to be a backpacker. You don't have to be a through hiker to enjoy the trail. You can go out there for the day and do some trail running. You can be a fast packer and enjoy it. You can do it however you like it, as long as you respect it and appreciate it and take care of it. I think everyone should enjoy it. Just respect it. That's all anyone asks. Now, that is the John Muir Trail, and I have 3 reviews, and then I'm going to talk about my sorry. All these papers came flying all over the place. All right. I know, that's very unprofessional. Sorry about that. Okay, get over there. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about 3 reviews. I try to be as honest as possible on this show. I'm not going to tell you lies. So they may not be as happy and glowing as I wish, but they are the truth. The first is about a book I read that has to do with the John Muir Trail. If you don't want to hear some spoilers, I would suggest going ahead a couple minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to the next review, and you probably will, you'll miss all the spoilers. The first review I'm going to do is for a book called The Trail. It's a novel by Ethan Gallegly. I was really looking forward to reading this book. It looked really, really fun. It got great reviews. I was very excited about it because it was about 2 backpackers who went on the John Muir Trail. Unfortunately, I was very disappointed. It was not what I thought it was going to be. The writer, he's a good writer. His writing style is very good. However, the book waffles between wanting to be a nonfiction book and a fiction book. That was the first problem. The second problem is that I did not like either of the main characters. The first character, the main character, is a young man who is kind of a sexist pig and only looks at females in a very sexist way. And that doesn't change throughout the whole book. He stays that way, and he's very unlikable. He's a very icky character. Didn't like him at all. And that got very tiring. And the other character is this old man who can't just, there seems to be know-it-all, and he can't just say something without going into a big speech about the whole history of something. So he has to kind of show off his knowledge. So that got really tiring too. That's why I think the author's trying to talk about the John Muir Trail through the old guy, but he's trying to talk about the whole history of the trail, but he does it through the old guy, so it sounds like every time the old man talks, he's giving the lecture. So it makes his character kind of unlikable. It's like, oh God, here he goes again. Here he's trying to preach to us again. Here he goes. That kind of character. And we all knows a person like that, and they get kind of tiring to be around. Plus, towards the end of the book, and this is a spoiler, so if you don't want to hear this, go ahead. Go ahead a minute or 2 minutes, because I'm going to rant here. Plus, towards the end of the book, I could have put up with all that I could have put up with. But towards the end of the book, the old character, they run across a couple fast packers, and the old man goes into a rant about how much he hates trail runners. If I'd have known that trail runners would have been put down in the book, I wouldn't have bought it and read it in the first place. There should be like a note on there, warning, not for trail runners. This book does not want trail runners to read it. No trail runners. I mean, come on. This book is really only good for backpackers. If you're a backpacker, not a trail runner, it's good for you. But anyone else, maybe not so much. I think it has a history of the John Muir Trail. It's a history book that wants to be a novel, that wants to be a history book, that wants to be a novel, and it just, I don't know. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads only because his writing, he's a good writer. He just can't put it together, and then his characters really don't learn a lot. They don't grow much. They're the same characters they were in the beginning. The second review I have is there's a lot of hydration powders and mixes out there. My favorite, and the one that I will continue to use, is Noon. I love Noon. I love their bubbly tablets. I've never had a flavor I don't love in their tablets. I absolutely adore them. And I love their non-bubbly powders. The strawberry is really good. That's my favorite. But I also like Goo powder mix and a few others. My stomach can't tolerate Tailwind. I can't do that one. So that one's out. And I realized recently I can't do Hammer Heat either. So I can't do anything that has extra calories in it. My stomach can't handle that. I have heard a lot of ads and read a lot of ads for Element. That's LMNT, Element hydration mix. So I said, I'll try that out. I got the salted watermelon and the salted chocolate. I tried the salted watermelon on my long run Saturday, which I'll talk about. I'll talk about the long run after these reviews. And it was horrible. It was so awful tasting. I couldn't stand it. It tasted, now I've never drank sweat, okay? But it tasted like sweat. It was just, I couldn't taste the watermelon. All I could taste was just the salty, icky flavored stuff. It was just awful. Now I had to drink it because it was all I had for about 7 more miles. So I had to drink it, and it was just nasty. It was horrible. So yeah, I don't know. It was just so strong in the salt and so not strong in the other flavors. I mean, I guess I could have added salt to water and then just drank that. That would have been okay. But it was just, it was awful. No, I can't do that again. I'll stick to my Noon. And then the last review, I got a shirt from REI. I got it on sale. It's a long sleeve shirt that protects you from damaging ultraviolet rays. It has a 50 proof protection, like using sunscreen. And I got it on sale. It's normally priced $50, and I got it for $25 on their sale. So I said, okay, I'm going to try this because the race I'm going to be at is probably going to be warm. So maybe I'll wear this on that day. And I tried it out. And I've heard so many people say, oh yeah, I feel so much cooler in this shirt. It feels so much cooler when I wear this. The wind goes right through and it doesn't feel hot at all. Well, it felt really warm. It was really, really warm. And it wasn't that hot out either. It was only like, when I got down in my run, I went in the headlands and then I went down into Sausalito. And in Sausalito it was about 75, and it felt really hot in that shirt. I really wanted a short sleeve shirt because it just felt so hot. So I don't know if I'm going to be wearing it or not. I might take it with me, and in case it gets really super hot up at Cool on one of the loops that I run, come and just switch it. If I just start getting too much sun, I'll just switch it with that one. But I'm not going to start out wearing it, that's for sure. So I don't know. I was kind of disappointed with the feeling. I didn't get that breeze through the material feeling that I've heard about. It was, I don't know. So I'm going to take it, but I don't know if I'll wear it. My run Saturday, it was interesting. I went up, I started at Crissy Field, and I went past the lagoon at the Presidio, and I ran, and I didn't realize that it was Escape from Alcatraz triathlon weekend. So everything was all mixed up. So I watched the triathletes do their race. Some of them, the leaders, I guess they had finished with their bicycles, so they were running the opposite direction of me. So they were really running fast towards the finish line, and I was going very slow down past the lagoon and past the water. And then I went up to the bridge, and I was done with all that. And then I went across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I always forget how boring running on the bridge is. I know everyone says, yeah, one of my bucket lists is to run on the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, once you've done it a few times, it's just really slow, and it's loud, and it's windy up there. So I did that, and then I went up into the headlands. I decided not to go the normal way I was going to go. I went up to the left and went up towards up to the Julian Trail up that way. And I realized that my right hip started bothering me. It was kind of hurting. It was very sore. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do the entire distance that I was planning, because if it's hurting now, I don't want to push it. But I said, if it hurts in 2 weeks, I'll push it. I will push it the whole way. But right now, there's no reason to push it. So I got a lot of steep hill work in, and I got some training that way. So I got that work in, and I went through Sausalito, and I went a few miles down, and I went into Marin City. I got my run short, maybe 3 miles, so not that much short, but it was okay. It was a decent run. Then yesterday, I went out for a few mile recovery run, and it felt fine. It didn't feel bad at all, so that was all right. It was a decent weekend of training and trying new things. Training is the time to try new things. I'm certainly not going to try new things on race day, that's for sure. But yeah, I was disappointed in the 3 things. I don't mean to sound negative, but when I try new things and they don't work, I got to tell you about them. And everything that I try out, I pay for. So nothing is sponsored. Yeah, I wish I had better news for all the things that I tried. But when I do try something and I like it, I do tell you about that as well. So that is it, and that is today's show, and I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And yeah, so next week, less than 2 weeks is my race. Okay, I'm freaking myself out a little bit. All right, so that is it, and that is today's show, and the website is martharunstheworld.com, and my email is martharunstheworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.